Before the sun rises, the city of Rome sleeps under a blanket of stillness. The sky, painted in deep shades of gray and blue, hasn't yet surrendered to the morning light. A soft breeze moves through the narrow alleyways, weaving between stone buildings that have stood for centuries. Somewhere in the distance, a cart creaks as it rolls slowly over uneven cobblestones. But most of the city remains quiet, breathing slowly, in rhythm with the darkness. In a modest insula, a Roman apartment block built with sun-baked bricks, a family stirs. The room is dim, lit only by the faint flicker of an oil lamp left burning low through the night. The air is cool, touched by the night's chill. A man, perhaps in his fourth decade, lies on a straw-stuffed mattress laid directly on a wooden frame. His name is Gaius. He is not a soldier nor a senator, just a citizen, an ordinary man living an ordinary life in the grand city. Gaius is a plebeian, one of the many who make the machinery of Rome move, yet leave little mark in marble or scroll. His fingers are calloused. His clothes, folded neatly nearby, are simple, a plain tunic mended more than once. The soles of his sandals are thin, worn smooth by years of walking the city streets. He breathes deeply, still lost in a gentle slumber. In another corner of the room, his wife, Livia, stirs lightly. A soft rustle of cloth. The room they share is not large, perhaps just enough to stretch out 2 sleeping mats and leave room for a small table and 2 stools. A basket of barley bread rests on that table, covered with a cloth to keep the mice away. The sounds of the waking city are subtle. A rooster crows, its call muffled by distance. Somewhere below, a neighbor shifts, floorboards groaning softly beneath a slow step. Life is beginning, not with haste, but with hesitation, as if even the city itself prefers not to rise too quickly. Livia turns toward Gaius and whispers something too soft to hear. He doesn't respond. Not yet. The day will begin soon enough. But for now, there is time to rest in this delicate moment between night and morning, between sleep and consciousness. This is where we begin. In stillness, in quiet, in the peaceful pause before the sun lays its golden fingers across the rooftops of ancient Rome. The slow awakening. The faintest hint of morning drapes itself over the horizon. Light does not rush into the city. It seeps in slowly, touching the highest rooftops before drifting down like a whisper. In the insula where Gaius and Livia live, a soft glow filters through the wooden shutters, drawing pale lines across the stone floor. Gaius stirs. Not with a jolt, but with the gentle resistance of someone not yet ready to surrender the calm of night. His eyes open partway, lids heavy, as if weighed down by the warmth of the dreams that still cling to him. He blinks slowly. His first breath of the day is deep and quiet. No words. No urgency. Just breath. Beside him, Livia is already sitting up. She wraps a faded woolen shawl around her shoulders to chase away the morning chill. Her movements are measured, not hurried. She reaches for the oil lamp and shields the flame with her hand, adjusting the wick with a practiced touch to coax a little more light from it. Outside, the city makes its own slow rise. A market vendor rolls up his stall's canvas flap. A dog barks once, then falls silent. The streets are still mostly empty, but the silence is not complete. Rome wakes in layers, and in this hour, only the thinnest layers stir. Gaius swings his legs over the side of the bed and rests his feet on the cold stone floor. He doesn't yet stand. He sits there, his hands resting on his knees, eyes closed. Not praying, not meditating, just existing, just breathing in the beginning of another day. On the small table, Livia has set a ceramic jug of water. She pours a little into a shallow bowl and hands it to Gaius. He rinses his hands and face, the water cool and refreshing. No soap. Just the feeling of water against skin. A small cloth dries his face. There is no talking yet. Not because there is nothing to say, but because the moment does not ask for speech. Morning comes slowly in this house, like the lighting of a single candle in a dark hallway. There will be time for voices later. For now, there is only the slow awakening of 2 souls in a sleeping city. First light in the insula. As the sky begins its slow shift from gray to gold, the insula, tall and narrow, stirs with life. These Roman apartment buildings are layered like cakes, stacked with lives and families and memories. Gaius and Livia live on one of the middle floors, a modest level, neither too close to the noisy street nor so high that carrying water becomes a burden. The walls around them are made of brick and plaster, simple and plain. There is little decoration. A faded fresco clings to one corner of the room, its colors long dulled by time. It shows a figure holding wheat, perhaps Ceres, the goddess of grain. Her expression is soft, almost watchful, as though she's been guarding the room for decades. Outside their window, the light grows stronger. A thin shaft of morning sun slides through the wooden shutters, casting pale lines across the stone floor. Dust dances slowly in that light, swirling in gentle circles, undisturbed by wind or motion. Other families in the insula are beginning to wake as well. Below, a child coughs. Door creaks. A quiet murmur of conversation begins to float upward through the thin walls and open windows. But it is not loud. It is the shared rhythm of ordinary mornings, a harmony of quiet preparation. Gaius moves toward the window and gently opens the shutters. The city greets him not with fanfare, but with texture. Clay rooftops stretch in all directions, catching the light like warm tiles. Laundry lines sag with tunics and linens, still damp from the evening wash. A bird lands on the sill, pauses, then flies off again. He looks down into the narrow alley below. It smells faintly of bread and damp stone. A woman is sweeping her doorstep with steady strokes. A stray cat watches her from a distance, curled beside a crate of wilted vegetables left from the night before. Livia hands Gaius a small piece of bread, left over from the previous day. It is coarse, a little dry, but nourishing. He eats slowly, chewing with patience, listening to the soft creaks of the building around him. The insula itself feels alive, breathing, shifting, gently reminding its residents that the day has begun. This, then, is the first light in the insula. Not brilliant or blinding, but quiet and kind. A light that knows its place among shadows. A light that asks for no rush. The morning chill and daily preparations. The morning air carries a slight chill, a reminder that the stone walls of the insula hold on to the coolness of the night. Gaius, still in his plain tunic, stands for a moment by the open window. He doesn't shiver, but the breeze brushing across his skin is brisk enough to quicken his breath just slightly. Livia moves about the room quietly, her steps soft against the stone. There are no grand rituals to begin their day. No servants, no silver trays, no silken robes. Just routine, just repetition. And in that repetition there is a kind of comfort. She pours a little olive oil into a small clay lamp to replace what burned overnight. The scent is faint, a blend of earth and smoke. Gaius folds his blanket and rolls it neatly to one side of the room. Space is limited. Order matters. A tidy room makes for a smoother morning. They speak little. A few murmured words about the weather, about the sound of carts in the distance. But mostly, they communicate through glances and gestures. A shared rhythm, built over years of mornings just like this one. Gaius reaches for a wooden comb with teeth worn down from use. He runs it through his dark hair, now flecked with the first hints of gray. Livia begins brushing dust from her sandals with a piece of cloth, careful to get between the straps. She checks the stitching along the hem of her tunic. It held through the night. That is enough. The water they used earlier for washing is poured out a window, into the street below, slowly, respectfully, so as not to hit a passerby. Then comes the careful act of gathering what little they'll need for the day. A small pouch of coins, a woven basket, a short list recited aloud and remembered between them. In the insula above, someone spills something, maybe a pot knocked over. The sound echoes downward, but no one shouts. No one scolds. These things happen. Life in shared buildings is not always silent, but it is understood. Gaius fastens his belt and ties a length of rope around his tunic to keep it from dragging. Livia places a fig into his hand, soft and ripe, from the market 2 days prior. He nods his thanks. She adds one more to her basket for later. Outside, the day is growing brighter. Rome is slowly shaking off its dreams. But inside, preparations continue with the same slow, careful pace. This is the start of their day. Not with excitement or rush, but with quiet resolve. With sandals neatly tied and baskets carefully packed, they prepare to step once more into the rhythm of the eternal city. Simple breakfast, simple life. The morning meal in Gaius and Livia's household is not a feast. It is not meant to impress. It is, like most things in their life, functional. Nourishment over indulgence, routine over variety. The table is a small one, made of worn wood with edges smoothed by years of use. 2 low stools sit on either side, neither perfectly level, but stable enough. On the surface, a woven cloth protects the wood from crumbs and stains. The cloth is fraying at its corners, embroidered long ago by Livia's mother, now faded to almost the same color as the table beneath it. Breakfast is simple. Yesterday's bread, dipped in watered-down wine. The bread is firm but not yet stale, and the wine, weak and thin, is more for hydration than pleasure. Sometimes they have olives, but not today. Sometimes cheese, but that's for occasions when coins are more plentiful. Gaius chews slowly. He does not speak, not because there is nothing to say, but because the quiet is part of the morning. Each bite is deliberate, as though the act of eating itself is sacred in its simplicity. Livia eats across from him. Her hands are small but steady. She takes smaller bites, tearing the bread gently, dipping it carefully to soften the crust. The wine has a faint tang, a reminder that it's been open since the last market day. Still, it is welcome. Through the open window, the sounds of the street below begin to rise. A wheel against stone. A vendor calling out the freshness of his produce. The distant clatter of sandals. But from their modest space, it all feels far away, muted like sound wrapped in cloth. They speak briefly about what needs buying, what needs mending. Gaius mentions a tool that must be repaired. Livia wonders if the market will still have decent eggs by the time she arrives. Nothing urgent, nothing heavy, just the soft flow of 2 lives moving gently forward. There is no sugar, no honey, no rich spices. Those are for the wealthy, for the upper floors of society, not the upper floors of the insula. But neither Gaius nor Livia seem to mind. They are used to this meal, and in its steadiness lies comfort. When they are finished, Livia wipes the table clean with a cloth rinsed in cool water. Gaius stands and stretches, his bones giving a quiet, familiar protest. The day waits outside. But for now, they've shared something more than bread and wine. They've shared silence, presence, the calm before the day truly begins. Into the streets of Rome. When the door creaks open, it does not open to a world of grandeur. It opens to a narrow alley, its stones uneven and still slick from the moisture of night. Gaius steps out first. Livia follows a moment later, adjusting the cloth that covers her hair. The street greets them not with fanfare, but with the hum of a city already stretching its limbs. Their insula leans slightly, as do many in this part of Rome. The walls are tall and close, casting long shadows even in daylight. Laundry hangs between buildings like flags, swaying gently, dripping onto the stones below. A trickle of water makes its way through the gutter beside their feet, a quiet, winding stream that carries with it small bits of leaf and dust. They walk slowly. There is no need to hurry. Everyone around them moves at a similar pace. Traders opening shops, bakers brushing ash from ovens, children still rubbing sleep from their eyes. The smell of smoke mingles with that of early bread. A thin, comforting scent, familiar as breath. Gaius nods to a neighbor who is repairing a broken cartwheel. The man looks up, offers a wordless smile, then bends again to his task. Livia notices a fruit seller setting up her stall. Later, she will return to see if the figs are still fresh. For now, she simply notes the spot. They pass by a small shrine tucked into a wall. Someone has left a coin and a sprig of rosemary. Livia touches the edge of the stone with her fingers. A quiet habit, neither ritual nor superstition, but something older than either, respect. The street widens a little as they near the market. Gaius pauses to adjust his belt, his fingers moving with quiet familiarity. Around him, people shift, breathe, carry baskets and burdens. The sound is constant but never overwhelming. It is a low murmur, like the sound of wind through tall grass. Children dart between carts. A man sweeps dust from his threshold. A dog watches the scene with half-lidded eyes, too lazy to chase, too curious to sleep. Gaius and Livia are just two among many. Unremarkable, ordinary. And in Rome, that is not a small thing. To live a life that is not threatened, not hungry, not desperate, that in itself is a kind of quiet privilege. The streets of Rome stretch out ahead of them, not as paths to adventure, but as arteries of daily life. Roads not meant to dazzle, but to carry bread and feet, voices and thoughts. They are not going anywhere special, just forward. And sometimes forward is enough. A visit to the market. The market does not shout. It murmurs. Unlike the grand forums where senators walk in togas edged with purple and orators speak to restless crowds, this is a market of the people. Not built from marble but from habit, from repetition, from mornings just like this one, stretching back further than memory. Gaius and Livia arrive at the edge of the open square where rows of wooden stalls are slowly filling. Some vendors are already calling out, but most arrange their wares in silence. Stacks of onions, baskets of eggs cushioned in straw, clay jugs lined neatly in rows, each sealed with wax. The ground is worn smooth from countless footsteps, and the dust has settled into the creases of time. Underfoot, pebbles crunch softly. Flies buzz lazily over a slab of salted fish, and a soft breeze carries the scent of fennel and ash and damp cloth. Livia holds the basket now. She carries it like it holds more than food, like it holds purpose. She walks slowly, her eyes scanning the stalls not for novelty, but for trust. She buys from the same people when she can. Familiar hands, familiar faces. They pause first at a stall selling beans. Broad, dry, and simple. The vendor nods, offers a handful to inspect. Livia weighs them in her palm, as though feeling for honesty. She nods, and a small scoop disappears into her basket, wrapped in a piece of cloth. Next they choose 3 eggs. Carefully. One is held up to the light. Another gently tapped to test its shell. The vendor's beard twitches when he smiles, and Gaius places a small coin in his open hand. The coin disappears without a sound. There are more things to see, though little they can buy. Grapes are too expensive today. So is pork. But still, they walk slowly past them, eyes appreciating what hands cannot afford. A boy walks by with a bundle of rushes tied with cord. Livia watches him for a moment. Her fingers brush against the rim of her basket, as if thinking of something she forgot, then moves on. At one stall, they pause to smell dried herbs, thyme, rosemary, bay leaf. The scent is familiar, warming. A reminder of cooking on cold days, of meals shared not for taste, but for closeness. They buy a small wedge of cheese. Dark, crumbly, not fresh but not spoiled either. It will last 2 or 3 days if they are careful. The market grows louder but not chaotic. The sound rises like a tide, not a storm. Gaius wipes his brow. Livia adjusts her shawl. Together they move toward the edge again, basket a little heavier, coins a little fewer, but the day still ahead of them. This is the rhythm of their morning. A slow gathering of what is needed. No rush. No bargains shouted in anger. Just the calm exchange of things for things. Needs met quietly. The market is not a place of drama. It is a place of presence. Of people who wake and walk and trade and return. And for Gaius and Livia, that is enough. Labor beneath the Roman sun. By late morning, the sun has risen high enough to touch every corner of the city. Its warmth begins to gather on the stones, not harsh but steady. The shadows shorten, drawing inward, and the city takes on its full shape. Gaius does not return home. He has work to do. His trade is modest. Manual labor for a contractor who handles repairs on public buildings and private homes. Some days he carries bricks. Other days, he scrapes mortar or hauls water for the men who mix lime. Today, he will help mend a crumbling wall near a bathhouse on the edge of the Subura. The streets grow busier as he walks. Sandals shuffle across gravel. Hooves clatter on stone. The smell of warm bread fades into the scent of dust and sweat. Somewhere, someone is singing, not a song for performance, but for rhythm to carry them through the labor. At the site, other men are already gathered. They greet each other not with laughter, but with nods, brief and wordless. Gaius lifts a trowel. Its handle is smooth from years of hands before his. The stone beside him is warm. The work is repetitive. Pull, bread, press, again. Bricks do not hurry, and neither does Gaius. His hands move with practiced slowness. Not lazy, just steady. No wasted energy. No wasted thought. Occasionally a foreman gives direction. Pointed finger. A glance. But mostly the men know what to do. They speak only when needed. About the mix or the angle, or a stone that won't sit flat. Their silence is not unfriendly. It is focused. The wall grows inch by inch beneath their hands. By midday, the heat becomes noticeable. Not oppressive but undeniable. Gaius pauses to sip from a leather flask of water. The flask smells faintly of smoke. The water is lukewarm but refreshing. There is no shade here, save for what the wall itself provides. The men rotate positions to share it, like dancers in a slow, quiet pattern. Gaius takes his turn in the sun without complaint. A boy arrives with a small cart bearing flatbread and olives. Lunch is not extravagant, just enough to quiet the belly. The men eat sitting on the stones. Gaius chews slowly, eyes half closed, back resting against the cool of the wall. The talk turns to nothing important. Sick child. Broken wheel. A dream one man had about walking into the Tiber with shoes made of wool. There is no analysis, no laughter. Just the sharing of sound to fill the air while hands rest. Then work resumes. The mortar thickens with heat. Dust clings to sweat. But the pace does not change. Gaius continues his task with the quiet patience of someone who knows that every stone laid is not just labor, but permanence. This wall may stand long after he is gone. The sun climbs, then begins its slow descent. And still the rhythm continues. Pull, spread, press again. A pause in the shade. As the sun tilts westward, the heat of the day reaches its quiet peak. It is not the sharp kind of heat that scorches or burns, but a dull, even warmth that settles into stone and skin alike. It wraps the city in stillness. The work slows, not because of fatigue, though it lingers in every shoulder, but because this is the time for pause. A short interlude. A breath held between morning and afternoon. Gaius finds a quiet spot along the edge of the building. The wall they've been working on casts a narrow band of shade, just enough for two men to sit shoulder to shoulder without squinting. He lowers himself onto the ground with care, his knees creaking softly in the silence. Nearby, another laborer does the same. Neither speaks. There's no need. The stones beneath them are warm but not hot. Their backs rest against the uneven wall, and the shade feels like a cool cloth laid gently over their faces. From this vantage point, Gaius can see part of the street. A vendor pushing an empty cart, a pair of children chasing a feather caught in the breeze, an old man seated on a step, eyes closed, mouth slightly open as if catching the scent of memory. The sounds of Rome continue around them, but here in the shade they seem softened. A muffled world. Voices blend together into something almost melodic. No sharp edges. Just the hum of life continuing. Gaius reaches for his flask again. The water is nearly gone now, but he takes a small sip and passes it to the man beside him without a word. It is received with a nod, shared, then returned. Simple courtesies. Quiet trust. A cicada begins its song in a crack of the wall above them. Its rhythm is slow and even, rising and falling with the breath of the city. Across the street, a curtain flutters in a window. Someone unseen lifts a pot of herbs to water them. The small details of life, so easily overlooked, yet somehow grounding, comforting in their persistence. Gaius lets his head rest against the stone behind him. He does not close his eyes, but he lets his gaze soften. For a moment there is nothing to do. No brick to lift. No word to speak. Only this small pause, shared silently with the wall, the shade, and the day. Soon he will stand again. He will return to the rhythm of labor, to the sun and dust and mortar. But not yet. For now, in this narrow strip of shade, time slows. And that is enough. Livia's afternoon at home. While Gaius works beneath the open sky, Livia has returned home. Their apartment is quiet, its walls still holding the coolness of the morning. The sun does not touch their room directly at this hour. The shutters are drawn halfway, letting in light that is soft, filtered, and golden. The basket she carried earlier now rests on the wooden table. She begins to unpack it slowly, as if the ritual is as important as the contents themselves. Each item is lifted with care: beans in cloth, the wedge of cheese, the eggs nestled in straw. A sprig of herbs she had not intended to buy, but could not resist. Their scent lingers on her fingers. She moves without hurry. There is no need to rush. This part of the day belongs to her. She folds the cloth that carried the beans, sets the cheese in a small clay bowl, places the eggs gently in a dish near the window. Each motion is deliberate, like the careful turning of pages in a well-worn book. The room is small but familiar. The walls are rough plaster, painted once in a color now faded to pale earth. The floor is swept clean. A single oil lamp rests on a shelf, unlit. The hearth is quiet for now. She sits by the window, not to watch, but to feel the air move against her skin. Below, the alley murmurs softly. Voices of neighbors, the brief clatter of a pot, footsteps passing but not stopping. She takes up a piece of linen and begins to stitch. It is not for beauty, but repair. A tunic hem that has come loose, threadbare from many washings. Her needle moves with the memory of hands that have done this before. It is a rhythm older than speech, older than Rome itself. Sometimes she hums. Not a melody, but a thread of sound like breath shaped into tune. Helps the time pass gently. Soft knock at the door. A neighbor's child, bringing news that someone down the hall has traded for fresh figs. Livia thanks her, though she knows they cannot afford them today. Still, she will remember. Perhaps tomorrow. She returns to her work. The thread tangles. She smooths it patiently without sighing. There is no audience, no urgency. Only the quiet ticking of hours marked not by clocks, but by light, by shadows, by the shifting weight of day. Soon she will prepare the evening meal. She will clean the table, sweep the floor once more, and perhaps, if the light allows, finish another row of stitches. But not yet. For now the room is calm. Her hands are steady. The day stretches quietly before her, as if holding its breath. And in this stillness, Livia continues, softly, steadily, like a stone that does not move but remains. Street sounds and passing time. The hours after noon arrive quietly. In the Subura, where Gaius and Livia live, time passes not in leaps or rushes, but in a long, drawn-out breath. The kind that fills a room slowly and leaves no trace. Outside their small home, the alley carries its usual sounds, familiar, unhurried. A woman calls softly to her child. Somewhere nearby, laundry is being shaken out from a window. The linen flutters gently, catching the light for a moment before settling. A cart rolls by, its wooden wheels creaking in slow rhythm. Not fast, not loud, just steady. The donkey pulling it snorts once, then continues. Its hooves echo against the stone. From across the way, the quiet clink of pottery being stacked. Someone is finishing their washing. Water spills onto the cobbles below, darkening the dust into patches that will dry again in an hour. In the distance, a flute plays. Just a few notes. Practice session, perhaps. The tune falters and stops. Then silence again. The walls of the apartment are thick. Sounds don't pass through easily, But Livia hears them in the way one hears the wind, not as a voice but as a suggestion of life outside. She sits on a small stool, threading another line of linen through her fingers. The needle dips and rises. A knock sounds below, a low knock, not at her door, but on the wooden threshold of the building itself. Someone is looking for someone. The voice that follows is gentle, not urgent. Name is called. Then silence. In Rome, there is always someone calling for someone. Farther off, a dog barks once, then stops. The quiet returns like a warm blanket. There is no danger, only presence. The sunlight now enters the room from a different angle. A golden shaft across the floor, catching dust in its light. The dust moves like tiny dancers, shifting and spinning in air that otherwise seems still. Livia rises and pours a small measure of water into a cup. She does not drink all of it. She saves some, just in case. Across the street, a group of children begin a game. Their laughter is soft, not wild. The kind of laughter shared by those who know the rules already and don't need to speak them. They draw lines in the dirt with broken sticks and drop small stones into circles. There is no shouting, just the low, rhythmic clatter of stone against ground. Gaius is still working somewhere out of sight. Livia does not worry. He always returns. The hours between noon and dusk are long but familiar. Not heavy, just full of small moments that pass without notice. She does not measure them with a sundial. She measures them with a shift of light on the wall, the tone of footsteps in the street, the feeling of cloth under her fingers. Time in Rome does not rush. It lingers, and the day goes on. Bread and ashes. Preparing the evening meal. As the day begins its slow descent, a quiet shift settles over the apartment. The light that once streamed in boldly now comes at an angle, more golden, more forgiving. Dust motes drift in it like gentle reminders of time, barely noticed. Livia rises from her sewing. The thread is neatly knotted. The hem is repaired. Her fingers are tired but not sore. It is time to think of supper. The hearth sits at one corner of the small room. It is simple. A circle of bricks blackened by years of use, a grate that does not sit quite level, and a pile of ash that whispers stories of many meals past. Livia crouches and begins to gather what she needs. Small twigs first, dry ones set aside from a morning walk, then the heavier pieces of wood stacked near the door. She strikes a spark, shielding it with her hand. The fire catches slowly. A curl of smoke rises, then disappears into the open window. It does not bother her. It is familiar, expected. The flame grows steady. She fills a clay pot with water from a jug and sets it above the fire. It will take time to boil, but she does not mind waiting. The pot is one of the older ones, worn smooth by years of cooking the same few meals in slightly different ways. Tonight it will be lentils again. The small, brown kind that cook slowly and fill the belly without complaint. She adds a pinch of salt, a sprig of dried thyme, and a little oil saved from the market. Not too much. Oil is precious. As the pot begins to warm, she slices the bread Gaius brought home 2 nights ago. It is not soft anymore, but the fire will soften it some. She rubs one piece with garlic, presses it lightly onto the hearthstone, and turns it when the edges begin to brown. Outside, the alley is quieter now. The sounds are more muted. A shutter closes. A voice bids farewell. The day is folding in on itself. Livia hums again, the same quiet tune from earlier. There are no lyrics, just notes carried from memory, perhaps her mother's or her grandmother's before that. She stirs the pot. The lentils are nearly done. Their scent fills the room. Not rich, not spicy, but comforting. Earthy. Honest. A second plate is set out. Habit. Gaius will return soon, as he always does. Dust on his sleeves and a calm in his step. They do not talk much during meals. Words are not needed when the food is warm and the day has already spoken enough. She takes the bread from the hearth. The crust is crisp. She breaks it in half and places it gently beside the bowl. Outside, the last light slips behind the rooftops. A bird settles on a windowsill and ruffles its feathers. A breeze moves through the alley, lifting the corner of a rag left on a step. Livia places the lid on the pot, covers the oil, wipes the table. Her movements are slow. There is no rush. The meal is ready. The day too is nearly done. The walk home. The sun, once high and relentless, now slips behind the rooftops in long strokes of amber and gray. Gaius wipes his hands on the cloth tucked into his belt. The work for the day is done, not finished but paused. Nothing in Rome is ever truly finished. The wall will wait for tomorrow. The stones will still be there. He says little as he departs the site. A nod to a fellow laborer. A quiet farewell to the foreman, who does not look up from his list. These exchanges are more ritual than conversation. Predictable. Reassuring. The street receives him like a familiar cloak. He begins his walk. Not hurried, not slow, but with the rhythm of someone who has walked this same way hundreds of times. His sandals make soft contact with the stone underfoot. A pattern of steps echo gently through the narrow way. Shadows stretch long between the buildings. The air is cooler now, touched with the faint scent of hearth smoke, oil, and the day's weariness. He passes shops with shutters halfway drawn. A wine cellar sweeps the threshold. A small dog curls beneath a stool. Somewhere above, a window creaks open, and a woman calls softly to someone inside. Children still linger in the alley, reluctant to let go of the light. Their voices are lower now, their games slower. One holds a small hoop, dragging it along the wall as she walks. Another crouches, tracing lines in the dirt with a stick, not drawing anything in particular, just passing time. Gaius continues on. He passes a baker's stall where the last loaves are stacked in rows, their crusts hardened by the day's sun. A man with a cart sells roasted chickpeas by the handful. His voice hoarse but gentle. Gaius does not stop. He rarely buys anything at this hour. As he nears home, he hears a familiar sound. A wooden bucket lowered into a well, the rope creaking, then the splash below. Someone collecting water for the evening. The rhythm of life here is not told in hours, but in gestures repeated daily. He climbs the short set of steps that lead into the small building. The wood of the doorframe is worn smooth where hands have touched it over years. He enters without knocking. It is his home. He does not need permission to return. Inside, the scent of lentils greets him first. Then the warmth of the hearth. Then the quiet presence of Livia, already setting the bowls. They do not speak right away. There is no need to announce the end of the day. It has arrived and they are together. Gaius sits. The chair creaks softly beneath him. He exhales, not deeply, not dramatically, but with the weight of a day released into the quiet. Outside the sky darkens. Inside the lamp is not yet lit. The walk home is complete. And the city, like its people, prepares for rest. Dinner by lamplight. The last glow of daylight fades behind the shuttered window. Livia moves quietly, reaching for the small oil lamp that rests on the narrow shelf above the hearth. The lamp is simple. Terracotta, slightly chipped at the edge, the wick already blackened from many nights before. She adds a careful drop of oil, just enough to burn through the meal. Oil is not wasted. It is measured like everything else in their lives. With practiced fingers, she lights the wick. Soft glow rises, steady, not bright. It casts long shadows on the wall, tracing the edges of pottery and flickering over the surface of the wooden table. The room is no longer lit by the sun, but by this quiet, man-made flame. It is enough. 2 bowls are placed on the table. One for Livia, one for Gaius. Each holds a modest serving of lentils, dark and fragrant, steaming faintly in the cool air. Beside them, slices of toasted bread rest on a shared plate. Crisp at the edges, still warm from the hearth. They sit without ceremony. No prayers are spoken aloud, though silent thanks may rise in the way their eyes meet. Not every family gives thanks in words. Some do so in silence, by the careful preparation of a meal, or the sharing of the last piece of bread. The first spoonful is always quiet. They eat slowly, not because they savor each bite in some poetic sense, but because that is how they've always eaten. Unhurried, respectful of the effort it took to bring the food to the table. Each bite is simple, familiar. Lentils, garlic, touch of salt. Gaius dips his bread into the broth, softening it. Livia drinks a little water, cradled in a small clay cup. They exchange only a few words, often about small things. A broken latch on the window. A neighbor's new sandals. Cost of olives. Not important matters but gentle ones. Safe ones. The lamp flickers. Not from a breeze, there is none, but from the lamp itself, burning low as it always does. It is never fully steady, yet never in danger of going out. Livia offers Gaius the last piece of bread. He hesitates, then accepts it. It is not a gesture of generosity, but one of habit. This is how their evenings go. Small noise outside. The thud of a door closing. A voice bidding someone good night. The city is settling, folding itself inward. The meal ends without flourish. The bowls are stacked. The last drops of broth wiped with the crust. No food is wasted. None is left. Livia pinches the lamp wick gently. It dims, but she does not extinguish it yet. For a few moments more, they sit together in the soft light. Not talking, not doing, just being. The day is nearly over, and the flame, like the city, prepares to rest. Evening tasks and tiny rituals. The meal is done, but the day is not quite finished. There are still a few things left to tend to. Not urgent, not demanding. Just quiet customs, carried out not because they must be done, but because they always have been. Livia gathers the empty bowls and places them beside the water jug. They will be cleaned tomorrow when the sun returns. Tonight they are set aside, their work complete. She folds the cloth from the table gently, smoothing it with her hands, though it carries no wrinkles. The motion is slow, thoughtful. Her fingers know exactly where to crease the fabric, how to lay it flat, how to tuck it into the corner where it waits for the next meal. Gaius rises without a word and lifts the wooden latch on the window. It slides into place with a soft click. He presses his palm to the frame, checking it out of habit. Not for fear but for closure. Outside, the street has gone still. Only a single oil lamp burns at the far end of the alley, left there by a cautious neighbor. Its glow barely reaches the stones. He crosses the room and checks the door. The bolt is simple. A bar of wood fitted into iron brackets. Moves quietly into position. Livia kneels near the hearth, brushing aside the remaining ashes. She does not clean them fully, just enough to leave space for tomorrow's fire. The hearth always holds a little of yesterday, a memory in soot and warmth. She places a small cover over the oil jar. Even though the lamp is nearly out, the oil must be kept clean. Dust does not belong in something so valuable. There is no rush in their motions, no sharp sounds, no banging, no clatter. Everything is done as if someone were sleeping in the next room, even though no one is. A garment is folded. A jug is refilled. A candle stub is wrapped in cloth and placed in the wooden chest by the wall. Gaius removes his sandals and sets them side by side, not at the door, but just under the stool. That is their place. They have been placed there every evening for years. Livia brushes her palms together, a small ritual to shake off flour, dust, or memory. She then unpins her hair with 2 wooden combs, simple and smooth. Her hair falls gently, not styled for beauty, but for comfort. There is no mirror in the room. No need for one. Tasks are complete. But they do not go to sleep just yet. First, they sit once more side by side. No reason. No plan. Just a pause between the duties of day and the silence of night. The oil lamp burns low. Its glow is smaller now, but still enough. Nightfall in the Subura. The sounds of the city grow fainter with the setting of the sun. In the Subura, the close-pressed neighborhood of shops and tenements, life does not end quickly. It slows in layers. First the markets, then the homes, then the whispers behind shutters. Even noise in Rome understands when to soften. Gaius and Livia sit in silence as the lamp flickers lower, their eyes not fixed on anything. The room is dim, the walls made vague by the soft tremble of shadow. What once was bright is now gently hidden. Familiar shapes blend into one another. Outside, footsteps echo along the stone street, just one pair, slow and measured. Perhaps a neighbor returning home late from a stall. No one calls out. No one answers. The city knows when to let go of its voice. Somewhere above, a baby cries briefly. Not with urgency but sleepiness. A mother murmurs a lullaby, and the sound drifts downward, thin as silk. Then silence again. The air grows cooler. Not cold but touched with evening. It slips through cracks in the door, moves along the floor, settles gently around the couple like a quiet animal curling up beside them. The smell of smoke still clings faintly to the room. Wood smoke, oil, the echo of cooked lentils. These are not unpleasant scents. They are the perfume of Roman twilight, known by all, ignored by none. Across the street, a lamp is extinguished. Above, the window that had once stayed open all day is now shuttered with a soft creak. And still the Subura breathes. Not in noise but in presence. The tenements lean on one another like tired neighbors, walls close enough to speak without words. Laundry, now still, hangs like flags of surrender to sleep. Wooden beams groan quietly as the night air settles into their grain. A dog turns once in a corner and sleeps. A cart is pulled under an arch. A pot is placed upside down to dry. Nothing important happens. And that is the comfort of it all. Gaius reaches to cover the lamp with its small clay cap. The flame does not resist. It goes out with a soft sigh, leaving behind only warmth and a faint line of smoke. The room is now dark, but not empty, just resting. The sleeping room. The lamp is out, but there is still enough light. Moonlight finds its way into the room, just a thread of it, slipping through the shutter slats, soft and silver. It rests on the floor in thin stripes, like the folds of a forgotten toga. The air is still. Even the small noises of the building, the groan of wood, the tap of something settling, have grown quieter as if they too prepare for sleep. The sleeping space is simple, not separate from the rest of the room, but set apart by habit and the quiet authority of routine. A small mat of woven reeds lies along the far wall. It is not thick. Does not need to be. Their bodies are used to its firmness, shaped by it night after night. Gaius smooths it with one hand, brushing away an imagined wrinkle. Livia unfolds a cloth, more blanket than sheet, and lays it out with care. There is no pillow, but a rolled tunic will serve. Neither of them speaks. Their silence is not heavy, nor is it distant. It is the kind of quiet that comes after a long day, when there is nothing left that needs to be said, and everything that matters is already understood. Livia sits first, adjusting her tunic, her hair loose over her shoulders. Gaius follows, lowering himself slowly, his joints stiff but accustomed to the motion. Their bodies are tired in a way that is familiar, not painful, not dramatic, just used. For a moment they sit in the dark, side by side, neither lying down just yet. There is something sacred in the stillness between preparing to rest and surrendering to it. Outside, a distant voice laughs, low and short. Then quiet again. Livia lies down, pulling the cloth up to her chin. Gaius settles beside her, his hand brushing hers lightly, not on purpose, but not by accident either. Their feet do not touch, but their breathing begins to match in rhythm. The night wraps around them, not as a blanket, but as a kind of soundless agreement. No prayers are spoken, no dreams are named, only breath. The mat creaks softly beneath their weight, then goes still. The room breathes with them, and Rome sleeps. Midnight sounds and quiet fears. The city is sleeping but not entirely. Rome never goes fully silent, not even in the stillest part of the night. From somewhere deep within the Subura, a cart's wheel creaks over uneven stone. It's not urgent, not loud, just slow and dry, turning as if it had forgotten how to stop. The sound comes and goes, swallowed by distance. A dog barks once, then nothing. Perhaps it dreamed. Inside the dark room, Gaius shifts slightly in his sleep. His hand moves from his chest to his side. His breathing changes, softens, deepens again. Livia doesn't stir, but her fingers curl gently, as though grasping something invisible in her dream. The mat beneath them is quiet, but the mind, even while resting, sometimes isn't. There are small fears that only visit at night. Will the grain last through the month? Will the landlord raise the rent again? Will the leak in the roof grow worse when the next storm comes? They are not terrifying fears, not the kind that bolt one upright, but the soft, persistent ones that live in the corners of thoughts. The ones that slip in when the day is over and the body no longer has anything to do. And yet they are old companions. Gaius has had them since he was a boy. Livia since before her first child was born and buried too early. These thoughts are not welcome, but they are familiar. They arrive like drifting ash, light and gray, settling into the edges of sleep. Outside, a drunk man sings to himself, slurring a tune no one else remembers. His voice echoes off the walls, bounces down an alley, and disappears. No one answers. No one complains. The shutters do not open. The dogs do not bark again. A rat scurries behind a crate. A tile shifts on a roof. And Rome sleeps on. Even the fears, after a while, grow tired. They slow, stretch, and blur into the fabric of dreaming. Livia exhales in her sleep, long and steady. Gaius murmurs something, half-formed and forgotten. The silence returns. Not perfect, but whole enough. The city turns beneath the stars. And the mat stays still. Dreams of ordinary people. There are dreams even here. They do not roar like battles or glow with gold. They do not come dressed in prophecy or parade across marble halls. These are dreams of the average Roman citizen. Quiet, passing like shadows through the mind. Livia dreams first. She walks through a market. Not the one she visited earlier, but a softer version. Less crowded, the air warmer. The bread smells sweeter, and there is no rush to bargain. The sellers smile with soft eyes, their hands unhurried. She picks up a fig, and it does not bruise. In this dream there is always enough. Gaius, beside her, does not speak aloud in sleep. But behind his closed eyes, something simple unfolds. He is back in the field he once worked as a younger man. The sky is wide, the kind of blue that doesn't exist in the city anymore. His hands dig into soil that yields easily, and no stone hides beneath. A breeze touches his face. Not too cold, not too hot. His back doesn't ache here. His tunic doesn't cling with sweat. The harvest comes early, and no one steals it in the night. There are no emperors in these dreams. No temples. No soldiers on parade. Only faces remembered. His father's laugh, her sister's voice, a child they once held for too short a time. The dream does not explain. It simply lets the memory pass by again, soft-edged and forgiving. A chicken walks through Livia's dream, for no reason at all. A coin drops in Gaius's. He never sees where it lands. Some dreams repeat, others dissolve. But none stay for long. The body shifts on the mat. Breathing rises and falls. The room remains dark. Outside, clouds move slowly over a half-moon. The stars blink faintly, as if trying to stay awake. In tenements all across the Suburra, other dreams are unfolding. Some about food. Some about warmth. Some about nothing at all, just color, motion, the suggestion of comfort. These are not grand visions. They are not needed to be. They are enough. Before the dawn. It is still night, but not fully. A quiet moment exists just before dawn, thin and uncertain, like the hem of a worn tunic barely catching on the edge of morning. The city has not yet woken, yet something is different now. The air has changed. It is no longer night's air, heavy and still. There is emotion in it, a thought of beginning. Inside the small room, Gaius turns over slowly. Not awake, not asleep. Somewhere in between. His hand brushes the edge of the mat. Feels cooler now. The warmth of night has drifted away, and in its place is a gentler chill. Familiar. Expected. From outside a sound returns. Soft, rhythmic. It is a broom. Far down the street, someone has begun to sweep a doorway. Perhaps a baker. Perhaps a widow preparing her stall. The sound is small but real. It scrapes lightly across the stone, and with it comes the first breath of routine. Livia stirs. She does not open her eyes, but her body knows. It knows the difference between midnight stillness and pre-dawn hush. Her breathing changes slightly. Her feet shift beneath the cloth. In a nearby tenement, a rooster calls. Not loudly, not with urgency. Just one quiet note. Not to announce, but to acknowledge. It is not yet time, but it will be soon. Cart creaks into motion. A wheel wobbles softly over stones. The baker's fire is lit. Its glow does not reach the streets, but the scent begins to rise. Ash, flour, and the hint of coming bread. The city stretches gently in its sleep. Chickens stir in their baskets. Rats disappear into their corners. A dog whimpers in its dreams. And all across the Subura, people lie still, not yet fully awake, but no longer fully asleep. In that space between worlds, thoughts begin to form. Quiet ones. Is today market day? Will the leather dry fast enough? Did I leave the jar closed? They are not spoken. They simply arrive, settle, and wait. In the sleeping room, Gaius finally opens his eyes. Only a little. The slats of the shutter are just beginning to gray with new light. And without a word, the day begins, though it has not yet asked anyone to rise. The first movements of morning. The shutters remain closed, but light begins to find them. A pale glow filters through the cracks, faint like the memory of firelight, but steady. It slips in and touches the wall, forming soft lines across the plaster, no brighter than dust. Gaius lies still for a moment longer. His eyes remain open now, but unfocused. He is not yet part of the day, just a figure waiting at its edge. Then, with the slow care of someone used to mornings that ask for nothing sudden, he rises. First one elbow, then a knee drawn in, then the weight of his own body lifted with a quiet sigh. Not pain, just the gravity of years of labor, of repetition. Beside him, Livia still rests. Her breath is steady, peaceful. He does not wake her. There is no need to speak. She will follow in time. He folds back the cloth and sets it neatly aside. The mat creaks slightly under his knees. He reaches for his sandals, not beside the mat, but across the room where they were left the night before, placed carefully as always. Habit forms a map. The sandals are worn, the leather soft and familiar. They do not resist his feet. He walks slowly across the room. Each step is measured, careful not to disturb. Not out of fear, but out of courtesy to the silence. It is a kind of ritual, this quietness. A conversation held only with the morning. At the basin, he pours a little water into a shallow bowl. It is cold, always is. No fire has touched it. He splashes it onto his face, lets it drip from his chin, and wipes with a small cloth. There is no mirror, but he does not need one. He knows the lines of his own face as he knows the pattern of the ceiling beams. Outside, a child's voice is heard for a moment. Just a giggle, high and thin, then quickly hushed. Someone else is rising nearby. The neighborhood begins to rustle. A door opens on its hinge. Pot is set down. Footsteps pass, then fade. Livia stirs at last. She sits up slowly, rubbing one eye with the back of her hand. She doesn't speak either. Instead, she nods once toward Gaius, and he returns the nod, just as he has each morning for years. They do not speak because they do not need to. The day has begun. It is not dramatic. It is not glorious. It is simply morning. And for the people of Subura, that is enough. Preparing for the day. The room is fully gray now. Not yet golden with sunlight, but no longer shadowed by night. The soft light of early morning drapes over the walls, quiet as cloth. The shapes inside the room, clay pots, a folded tunic, a stool missing one leg, begin to appear more clearly, but still without sharpness. Nothing in this moment has edges. Gaius crouches beside the hearth. There is no flame yet, only the memory of one. A few coals buried in ash, some faint warmth still hiding below. He does not rush. He leans forward, gently sifting the ashes with the tip of a stick, careful not to scatter what little glow remains. Then, with practiced fingers, he adds dry twigs, gathered days ago, chosen for their lightness. He leans in and blows, slow and even. Curl of smoke, then a flicker, then flame. It is small, but it lives. Behind him, Livia folds the sleeping cloth, her movements smooth, her face calm. The cloth is creased, but she does not smooth it out. It will be used again tonight, and wrinkles do not matter much when you sleep on reeds. She rises and reaches for a wooden bowl, turning it over in her hands. Quick look inside. Clean enough. She sets it on the small table with a hollow thud. From the corner, she retrieves a handful of lentils, kept in a cloth sack. She runs her fingers through them, checking for stones. The small act has rhythm: lift, sift, look, return. She has done it more times than she can count. The fire cracks softly. Gaius adds a few larger sticks, watching them catch. The heat creeps outward, slow but steady. It is not much, but enough to warm a bit of water, maybe soften a crust of bread. Their conversation remains unspoken. They have no need for words in this part of the day. Each gesture follows the next, each step remembered by the body long before the mind joins in. A jug is lifted. Pot is set. Water pours. Grain is measured. Outside the window, the street is waking more clearly now. A vendor passes, pushing a small cart with creaking wheels. His voice is low, almost mumbled, calling out his offerings without expectation. Livia glances toward the shutter. She doesn't open it yet. The light outside will wait. The room smells faintly of earth and old oil, of fire smoke and worn leather. A smell that does not change much from day to day. A smell that says, "This is life, and life continues." Gaius sits down on the stool with the missing leg, balancing carefully. The pot begins to steam. Breakfast will be small, but it will be enough. And the day, quietly, moves forward. The walk into the city. The meal is finished. There was not much to clean, just a bowl wiped with the edge of a cloth, a pot set aside to cool. No one lingers over the food. There is work, as always, though it doesn't chase them. Simply waits. Gaius stands again and smooths his tunic, more from habit than necessity. The linen has grown thin with time, and a small tear near the hem has been stitched once, then again. His belt, tied simply at the waist, holds a small pouch with a coin or two, more for appearance than purchase. Livia hands him a folded cloth. Inside, a crust of bread not yet too dry, and a few olives packed in their own oil. He says nothing. Neither does he. This is how it always begins. He opens the door. The air outside is cooler than within. A gentle breeze rolls down the narrow street, touching skin and stone alike. The smell of dust mixes with the faint tang of cooking meat from somewhere farther off. He steps out. The stones beneath his feet are uneven but familiar. Every slope and dip, every crevice filled with old straw or forgotten bits of charcoal, has been walked 1,000 times. His feet find their place easily. Others are walking too, some ahead, some behind. Most with the same expression, neutral, unreadable, not tired but not eager. They walk not to arrive, but because arriving is what comes after walking. He nods at an older woman drawing water from a cistern. She nods back. Neither smiles. Neither needs to. A boy runs past, barefoot, holding a small wooden toy carved roughly into the shape of a dog. His laughter rings once, then is swallowed by the walls of the alley. Gaius continues. The buildings rise on either side, tall and close. Laundry hangs between them on fraying lines, moving gently with the air. Tunics, cloth rags, a single green sheet. Above, voices echo faintly from open windows. Someone arguing about prices, someone singing half a tune. A mule passes, led by a boy not much older than the one with the toy. The mule snorts softly. Gaius steps aside. They exchange no words. Farther along, the Sabura begins to open. The alleys widen. More carts appear, some full of vegetables, some empty, waiting to be filled. A man sits by a door, sharpening a blade on a stone. He looks up but only briefly. Rome does not rise with drama. It wakes slowly, as if reluctant to begin again. But begin it does. Gaius walks on. Toward the market. Toward the workshop. Toward the same stone he passed yesterday, and will pass tomorrow. And behind him, Livia begins her own tasks. Quiet, steady, familiar. In this city of emperors and spectacles, marble and myth, most lives unfold like this. Small and soft, without applause. But they matter, because they continue. The return home. The sun begins to lower. Not quickly. It slides, inch by inch, behind the rooftops of Rome. The sky softens. Not orange, not gold, but a pale gray that hints at warmth without promising it. The shadows stretch, slowly claiming the space between stones. Gaius walks home. His tunic clings lightly to his back with the dust of the day. His sandals press the same worn path they took that morning, though now the stones feel rougher underfoot. It is not pain he feels, only use. Around him the city exhales. Vendors pack their goods with quiet hands. One wraps figs in a worn cloth. Another counts out coins with slow fingers, whispering numbers under his breath. A child yawns beside a mother arranging wilted herbs back into a basket. Gaius passes without pause. There is no need to hurry. Nothing waits at home with urgency. No letters. No alarms. Only the familiar space that has held him through countless evenings like this one. The Sabura narrows again as he returns. The smells shift. Less of heat and cooking meat, more of smoke and worn plaster. A dog barks once, then falls silent. A man sings softly from a window above. The song is not in tune, but it doesn't matter. It isn't meant to be. As Gaius approaches his building, he nods once to a neighbor sitting on the stoop, mending a sandal. The neighbor nods back. They exchange no words. Inside, Livia has lit a small oil lamp. Its light flickers against the wall, casting long shadows of a pot, a stool, a hanging tunic. The room smells faintly of the evening meal. Lentils again, perhaps with a scrap of onion. Nothing heavy, just enough. She looks up as Gaius enters. He does not speak. He only sits, easing his body down onto the stool, letting the day's weight drain out through the soles of his feet. For a moment, neither of them moves. Then Livia places a bowl beside him. He eats slowly. The lentils are soft. The bread has grown harder since morning but can be softened with a little oil. He chews quietly, thoughtfully, not tasting for pleasure but for nourishment. Outside, the last of the city sounds fade. A shutter closes. A chicken clucks once in the dark. Somewhere far off, laughter drifts briefly into the night, then disappears. Livia gathers the bowls when he finishes. Gaius removes his sandals. The leather creaks, tired like him. He stretches out a little, hands resting on his knees. They speak a few words, small things. Price mentioned. Cousin remembered. The weather tomorrow, maybe. Then silence returns. Not heavy, not empty. Just full of the understanding that words are not always necessary. He watches the lamp for a while. Its flame dances slowly, then leans. Time slips forward unnoticed. And the day prepares to end. The night returns. The flame lowers. It has not gone out, but it flickers now, softer than before, like it too is growing tired. The oil is almost gone. Livia watches it for a moment before pinching the wick gently with 2 fingers and letting the room fall into darkness. The silence deepens. Not the silence of loneliness, nor of emptiness, but of closure. A kind of quiet that knows nothing else must be said. The kind of quiet that has lived many nights and asks nothing more. Gaius stretches out his legs. The mat beneath him is uneven, but his body molds to its memory. He does not complain. This has always been his place. The same blanket, The same wall beside his shoulder. Even the air has a familiar weight. Livia lies beside him. She adjusts the blanket once, then stops moving. Her breath is steady. Not deep, not shallow. Just there. A quiet rhythm that matches his own. They do not speak. Above them, the wood beams creak softly. Not because of wind, but because old wood always remembers to groan a little before sleep. It is not broken, just alive in its own way. Outside, the street has grown still. The mule is no longer heard. No sandals scrape the stones. Even the soft buzz of distant voices has disappeared, tucked into corners behind closed shutters, beneath worn blankets, just like Gaius and Livia. Somewhere a dog coughs. Then silence again. The stars are out, but no one sees them. The sky stretches over the city like a dark wool cloak, keeping everything quiet, everything still. Not even the gods speak now. Gaius closes his eyes. He is not young but not yet old. Not rich but not broken. He has seen many days like this one, and he will see more. They come and go with the same weight, the same smell, the same texture. Like the linen tunic he wears, thinned by time, but still enough. He does not dream often. But sometimes, in the soft hours before the first bird sings, he will dream of nothing at all. Just blackness, just rest. And that is enough. Rome continues just beyond the wall. Breathes with him. And so the day ends. Not with a sigh. Not with a sound. But simply, as always, with sleep. Thank you for joining this quiet journey through a single, unremarkable, beautiful day in ancient Rome. One among thousands. All ordinary. All forgotten. All real.